Good morning. It's a glorious Saturday morning, 1st of June, and it is starting to look that way. Starting to get pretty cool during the evenings. It's quite fresh at the moment. But, you know, welcome to another episode of Are We Ever Going to Finish the House? So, today's exciting episode is going to be entitled Probably at Some Stage Soon, Yes. See if that makes any difference. So, that's come up really nice. It's nice and close to the wall. It's got a good fit on the outside of the door frame. There's very, very little gap there. Looks nice and neat. Very happy with that. And it happens to match the other two that we've already done. So that's also spotted gum. This one's got a nice bit of, I don't know what you'd call that, stripiness, fiddleback, tiger, something or other. Looks good. Nice bit of feature in the timber. And the laundry door with similar sort of features. It's quite a nice timber. So the only thing we need to do now, and what we're about to move on to, is covering up the edge of the slab. So the insulation foam underneath the slab is going to get covered pretty much by gravel and some paving blocks. There's going to be some pavers out the front of each of these doorways. We're currently using a leftover SIP panel up there, which has served the purpose, but it's, can't stay that way. So we're going to take a bit of this sort of timber, a little bit wider. We're going to cut it to fit in between the flashing on each side of the doorway and cover up the edge of the slab. Speaking about features in timber, I was just at the software store and I was hunting through the rack of spotted gum, and I was sort of, oh, this one's okay, that one's not too bad, this one's a bit short but it looks nice. I found the perfect piece of timber. Have a look at this. I've given it a light sand and you can see quite a decent sap line through here, but up this end it just goes to town. Some really nice detail through there. Let's lather it up with some wax and see how it comes out. Right, I'm going to let that dry for, I don't know, a week or something, because I've just done my backing and I don't feel like continuing on this project because it's so close to the ground. Until next time. I keep promising and under-delivering, and I do apologise. Look, we've been busy with skirting boards and doors and doors and doors and skirting boards, and you haven't been very helpful at all. Just being honest with you, you haven't. A pile of doors is reducing in size and quantity. We have 2 doors left. I've got one up here on the bench, drying swiftly with the aid of a little fan and some sunshine. It's touch dry now. It's been sitting there for probably, I don't know, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. It's coming along very nicely. So what I'm going to show you today is my version of how to set up a door for an existing door frame. We've got the door frame in, but we don't have any architrave around it. This particular door is going to be hinged on this side and it's going to open all the way and sit flat against this wall. For the most part, we'll live with the door open. Because we don't have any architrave on there just yet, we need to pack it out so that we know where our hinges are going to sit. Because we need the door to fold all the way in, the hinge has to be further to the inside of the door frame so that the door will actually miss the thickness of the architraves around the door frame. Right, so our architrave is going to sit somewhere there. Wow, that plaster's quite proud. Going to have to do something about that. Otherwise our architrave's going to... Might need to take a section out of the back of this. Anyway, because the architrave has got a little quirk on the inside there, but it adds this thickness. When we sit our door hinge on there, normally they'd sit about here, but because we need our door to actually open all the way around and sit flat against the door, we need the face of this part of the barrel to be on the inside, or flush with at least the face of the architrave. This half of the hinge here is screwed into the edge of the door leaf itself, so when the door is closed, it'll sit like that. When the door is open at 90 degrees, it'll be open like that. But because we want the door to actually open all the way fully and sort of be in line with this wall, it needs to open to about there. Coming out this way past the architrave will allow the door to be parallel with the wall, as long as the barrel of the hinge is slightly further inside the door frame than the architrave. So we're barely catching the edge of the door frame here and here. That one's getting a good hold, but we do have 4 hinges. I've done this to a similar door. So this door in one of the bedrooms obviously closes, but needs to open up all the way to sit flat against this wall. The edge of the door leaf, which is screwed to this half of the hinge, is just a whisker past the edge of the barrel of the hinge itself. The barrel of the hinge is just a whisker past the architrave there. So you can barely see the barrel of the hinge poking out past the architrave. When it opens fully, it will just miss the face of the architrave. Yes, hello? What can I do for you, small dog? So we've been flat out trying to get doors waxed, architraves varnished, skirting boards varnished, skirting boards on. Most of the architraves were done when the guy came to do the door frames, but we've still got a couple to do over here. I'm going to try and fit these doors without putting the architraves on first, because that's just, I need to go and get more timber and rip that down through the saw and all of that. But the door is basically ready to go on. So I'm going to show you how I put the hinges on, how I mark up the door frame, and then we'll cut some handles and chisel out a little notch for the latch to go into the door frame. So let's jump into it. 2347. Snug. Just a hair's movement in there. So now that we've already hinged the door and it's hanging nicely, we can push the door stop just snug up against the face of the door. So we'll get a nice, not tight, but snug fit. When the door closes, it shouldn't rattle and there shouldn't be too much movement on any of these door stops. What I'm going to use is a small piece of damp course, which is barely a millimetre thick, and I'll use that to face the door so that there's just a hair's width of gap between the edge of the doorstop and the face of the door. Just going to hold this up here, put this underneath it against the door face and shoot a pin in there. If we do the hinge side first, we're less likely to affect the door by pushing on it. So there's a hinge right up here in the corner here, so if we make this tight against the face of the door, right near the hinge, it shouldn't move. It shouldn't move the door. That'll hold it there for us, gapped nicely on that side, and then we just gently you can see that, the gap that it's holding out against the door. That's pretty good. Same thing in the middle, just gap that door a little bit. Pretty good. So we'll cut the side pieces now. Now that we've got our head in, we can measure off the bottom of the head all the way down to the floor. That'll give us the length for our side pieces, trim them, and we'll fit them the same way. $23.47. $23.48. Yeah, it's not too bad. Right, here's our side piece. So we're going to make this side piece flush on the front of the header so that those two pieces meet nicely, and if we need to adjust any gap in the door down as we go, we can just push in a little bit to take up any wobble. So we're flush on this face here. We've got a little bit more gap on the back of this piece than we do the head. This piece must just be a tiny little bit thinner. But we'll space it somewhat normally down the side of the door. We'll put a couple of pins in here and then we can adjust our gap further down near the latch. So with this side door stop, we actually want the door to be reasonably snug against this, but it wants to be able to latch without having to pull on the handle. So right about where the handle is, I'm going to pinch it against the door frame and we'll just get it snug so that the door will close and the latch will engage with the striker plate without having to haul on the door too much. If it's too loose, the door will rattle. If it's too tight, you'll have to pull on the door to get it to latch properly. So we want a happy medium in there somewhere. Right about there. Right there. There's a little bit of rattle in there. What I might do is just push this piece between these two pins I'll just push this guy just a hair in towards the door, just to take up a bit of that rattle. Keep doing the same thing as we go down the doorstop. Just make sure that it's not impeding the door closing easily, but that it's snug enough that it won't rattle when it is closed. That is just about perfect. There's just a little bit of movement in there, that's fine. So I'm going to pop another couple of pins in here to make sure the doorstop's not going to move if the door ever slams closed in the wind or whatever. Making sure I don't hit any screws in the back. Especially around this latch area. I think that's probably got us. Man, it's a warm one today, only inside. It's the middle of winter, we're closing in on the end of July. It's the 25th of July. I know this video's taken a long time to put out, but we've had a weird warm spell the last few days. We had 17 degrees yesterday, I think. The house got up to like 25. Today, it's not as warm outside, let me tell you. It is currently outside 12 degrees. Where we're living in the shed, which is insulated, is 17 degrees. In the house here, it's 25. I haven't been heating the house. We have been using the slab heating in the wet area. That's been really nice underfoot. And we're, of course, using hot water and things like that. We're not living here yet, but I want to test all of the services to make sure that it's going to cope with living here every day while we can still do something about it easily. If we have to change the electric cylinder back to a gas instantaneous unit, we can do that nice and easily while we're not living in here. Today's job is getting these architraves on, finishing off some door stops and getting rid of some skirting boards which have been cluttering up my shed. So I've just spent a silly amount of time hollowing out these potential architraves. Just ran them through the table saw a bunch of times and took the centre out. This guy's on the plaster, this guy's on the door frame, and hopefully any discrepancies in the height of the plaster to the door frame is going to be taken up in that hollow. And we should get a nice tight finish down the door frame and reasonably close on the plaster. And that seems to be looking pretty good. So that one's good. Already fitted the one to the right. Just need to cut a header. I'm very happy with this gap down here. So although that took a crazy amount of time, I hollowed out 4 architraves, 2 for each side of the door jamb and a piece for the headers. Probably took me an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I think in the long run it's going to be worth it to get that tight finish down the side of the wall. This door is probably going to be the one that is most looked at. It's on the way from the lounge room to the kitchen to the bathroom. You look down this wall coming out of the bathroom, so I'm really happy that this one here is nice and tight, so it was time well spent. One header fits pretty nice if I do say so myself. It only took me like 7 cuts. Let's put that header in. Very good. So I'm about to run out of battery again. So I won't bore you with the rest of these architraves on the inside. It's basically going to be the same as this. I am glad that I bored out the middle of the back of the architraves. They do fit really nice and tight against any difference in height between the door frame and the plaster. So that was time well spent. I'm happy I did that. This looks really nice. I can't wait to get the skirting boards done out here now. Finish off the other door. Man, then I've only got 2 doors to varnish. Another room with some skirting boards. We're getting close. Well guys, this video has been a long time coming. I promised last time that I wouldn't take as long, but man, I've just had so much on. We have done a fair bit of work already. Varnishing doors takes a long time. You can only sort of do one side at a time. I haven't hung them to dry or anything like that, so they've taken a fair time. Also skirting boards prep. We run them through the ripsaw. We're actually making them ourselves instead of buying a profile that's pre-routed. We're buying a square, normal chunk of timber and running it through the saw on an angle that we want, and then sanding and varnishing and it. Anyway, it's taken a lot of time to get where we are, just fiddly preparation stuff. So I appreciate you coming along. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you on the next one, which I don't know what the next one's going to be. We're going to be maybe moving in. It's very close. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time.